Mic check. Yeah. Region Weekly, deep inundation. Break it down simple, demystify the system. Demystify deep in, tap and tuning. Know it's online, yeah, the whole net moving. Bills get passed, yeah, we track that movement. Region space drop, alpha, prove it. Macro talk, but we still stay winning. Better go up when the crowd start listening. From the chain to the world we bridging. Deep in the connection, yeah, we building. Yeah. We don't chase hype, we decode systems. Congress floor, yeah, we read legislation. Bills get signed, market shift quick. Policy change, we already on it. CPIs, rate cuts pending. Fed chair talk, got the charts all bending. Infrastructure plays, long-term vision. Deep in those, get real permission. Fiber lines run through the...
Heyo, it is Tuesday. What is it? February 24th. My God, this year is flying by so far. We got Brian in the house. What's up, sir? How are you doing? Woo, buddy. We have some crazy news that was dropping today. Some insider trading allegations. We're going to break all that down. We've also been killing it, guys, on the trades. I'm going to walk you through some of the trades I've been leveraging based on macro news and have been hitting pretty well on some of these, really trading Bitcoin, gold, and silver. I'm going to walk you through a couple of those trades and how I'm looking at macro news and playing that to my advantage. Because I'll tell you what, if you're only long, am I glitching again? If you're only long right now with this market, you're really selling yourself short. Also going to talk about the AI agent scene because I've been hitting super hard on some of those, man. And I found a new one that I haven't covered yet. So excited about that. I'm going to walk you through those different agents. I think they're potentially just getting started with a lot more upside too, which is very exciting. You have to be looking at where the opportunities are at all times. I think Deepin has some great opportunities, but you have to wait for the market to rebound. I mean, some have been popping off the last few weeks for sure. I'm going to highlight some of those, but those are more longer term plays, buying while the market's down, waiting for market to recover, where I think there's going to be some outlandish returns on some of those. But I still want to be able to take advantage of opportunities in the meantime. And that requires looking at where the alpha is, where's the money rotation taking place, and being able to play downside as well as upside. Just said it's time for a drink. Hey, man, I cannot fault you for that. Oh, Kevin's in the house. What's up, sir? Helium's had a nice little run recently, huh? Oh, man, I'm also hearing some rumors about another Deepin project potentially closing up shop. We'll see. I'll say it's not a project I've ever had investment in. That one, any of that I've ever really covered. So we'll see. I don't want to spread any FUD, but we'll probably know pretty soon here if it is the project I'm thinking about. But it's what we're hearing. And I'll tell you what, man, you can look at that and think, this is horrible for the space and blah, 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 and just like kind of cash out and give up. Or you can look at it as kind of an opportunity. I mean, if you find the right gems that bounce back when the market bounces back, it could push those down further to give you better entry points. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, man. That's worked for me in the past. So continuing to build positions in these Deepin projects while the market's down, finding other ways to make money, right? That is the dealio. I know my computer was being a little glitchy last night. I realized that my memory was getting super low. My storage space is getting really low. So I have it external, so I had to move some stuff over. Hopefully things are a little bit cleaner today. The big news of the day, of course, though, is Jane Street is facing claims of insider trading that sped up Terraform's 2022 collapse. So Jane Street has said these allegations are desperate and baseless in an attempt to extract money. What's up? We got Liz in the house too. What's up, Liz? Hey, yo. I realized when I'm streaming from StreamYard, it's streaming, but it's not posting on X. So I've had to go, and I realized today I have to go and repost it so that there's an official post about it. So did that today. Looks like we have a pretty good amount of people in here. So heck yeah, let's go. All right. So here are the details on this. And it actually there's another post I want to pull up as well, because it's not just Jane Street. There's some other people tied to this, and Sam Bankman-Fried is one of them. So let's talk about this a little bit. So here's the claim. There's a Jane Street linked wallet that withdrew $85 million from a Curve pool minutes after Terraform pulled out $150 million in UST. Of course, that's their stablecoin that depegged. Okay, and they're saying that it helped trigger the stablecoin's loss to the dollar peg, and ultimately that wiped out $40 billion. You guys remember it. I know my boy Kevin remembers it. Jane Street has denied the allegations, and I want to go into the details here a little bit. Tom Snyder is the administrator that's winding down Do Kwon's Terraform Labs, and he's the one that's suing Jane Street here. And he's seeking damages from his co-founder, Robert Granieri, and this employee, Bryce Pratt, who was an intern at the time over there. By the way, I looked up a picture of this freaking guy. Not the intern, but oh man, what is going on? We're glitching out here. Anyway, this is the billionaire co-founder of Jane Street. It's the only picture I could find of the guy. He looks like he could be a schemer. But again, this is just an allegation. This is a lawsuit that's been opened. We don't know for sure. All right. Can you let me know? It looks like half the founders. Is my audio coming through okay? If it's coming in glitchy, please let me know. Looks like half the founders. No kidding, man. It is so true in crypto. It's a little wild out here. So Snyder has accused the trading firm of using material non-public information from Terraform insiders. So they are claiming that they got inside information, were front-running trades that sped up Terraform's demise. In other words, private insider trading is the claim here. Now, a little bit of background. The stablecoin, of course, lost its one-to-one peg to the US dollar. Within days, the Luna token crashed to zero. And as a result, 40 billion got wiped out rather, leading to massive wealth destruction. I mean, guys, this was a really big deal. I mean, there are people that got financially ruined from this. I mean, there are people that freaking off themselves because of this. I mean, this is a really big deal. And it all started on May 7th when Terraform withdrew 150 million Terra US dollars from their decentralized stablecoin focused trading platform Curvepool. Okay. Now, within 10 minutes, Terraform informed the public. Before Terraform informed the public, Jane Street withdrew 85 million from that same pool. They're saying this triggered the market panic. Now, Kwon came out with Terra and basically said, hey, we went to take that $150 million. We're going to move it into a new liquidity pool for stablecoins. But at that point, it was too late. And then on May 9th, Terra started slipping. Jane Street's Pratt, so that's the intern, started up a group chat with Do Kwon over at Terra and started floating offers to buy Bitcoin or Luna, basically trying to extract them. And Jane Street saying that the lawsuit is baseless, opportunistic claims to try to get money out of them at this point. Now, this is a guy I highly suggest you follow because he breaks stuff down really well. So he goes a little bit more in depth here. And some of these findings were quite astonishing, actually. And maybe you knew some of this stuff, but he does clarify a lot of what we already talked about, that Terra withdrew $150 million. Within 10 minutes, Jane Street pulled $85 million from the same pool. And court filings confirmed this was Jane Street's largest crypto swap in history. So that's pretty wild. So they talk about this lawsuit that was opened up against Jane Street with this Manhattan court, alleging insider information, right? This intern Bryce Pratt front ran the collapse. Okay, but here's what nobody is connecting. This is something I haven't seen anybody else talk about, but this chat, okay, that was opened up, this Telegram chat, was already looked into. Okay, Manhattan prosecutors had already reviewed these. And it wasn't just Jane Street in this chat. You also had Jump Trading and Alameda Research. Of course, Alameda Research is the firm that Sam Bankman-Fried is behind. Okay, so 3 quant desks in one group chat, each with insider access, each trying to extract value while they're discussing salvation of Terra Luna. So Jump Trading, as it turns out, and this was found out in a prior lawsuit. The Snyder guy already sued Jump Trading, by the way, the one that's now suing Jane Street. But they had an insider deal. They're buying Terra they're buying Luna, at 40 cents when the market price was $110. They did this heavy discount. And they had actually already propped up the stable coin once back in May of 2021 when it first broke. What they told the public, though, was that the algorithm saved itself. They did not disclose the fact that they actually propped up the token the first time that it said started depegging. SEC confirmed this. Jump was sued for $4 billion, okay, by this same guy, Snyder. Elemeter Research, who's also in the chat, of course, founded by Sam Bankman-Fried. Guys, he trained at Jane Street, the new lawsuit, and it's against Jane Street, of course, from 2014 to 2017. He ranked as the best trader in his class before leaving to found FTX, which, of course, we know what happened there. FTX went down, $8 billion in customer funds was lost there. So all of these people are interconnected, and all of them are working behind the scenes on this, right? So it says here, 3 firms connected by alumni networks, secret deals, shared Telegram chats, 40 billion erased. Do Kwon, of course, got 15 years out of all this. The quant firms got out first. And here's the question we're left with. Was the 2022, and this pushed us into the bear market, of course, the last bear market, was it a market failure or was it information extraction, right? Where all of these 3 firms extracted as much as they could, got out before the real damage was done. And, that is what we still need to find out. Now, where this lawsuit will go with Jane Street, I don't know. But I thought it was kind of interesting in one of the comments down here. It's like, hey, they could have seen on chain that Kwon's wallet pulled out the 85 million, I believe is what it was. And then within 10 minutes acted on that, right? I mean, we see this all the time. We see people big wallets start to pull funds on, people start to sell. So I am curious to see where this goes, but it does seem for sure like the 3 were in cahoots behind the scenes. And likely were huge factors in that crash that caused the bear market, cost people a lot of money. Appreciate you, Peanut. We got Brian. Oh, man, you lost a few grand. I'm sorry. I know some people that lost a lot more money off of that, man. That is a really tough situation. I thought this was timely, though, as we're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried. There's been talk about him potentially being pardoned, it sounds like, and this just came out literally within the last 2 hours. White House officials say Trump will not pardon Sam Bankman-Fried, confirming he has no intention of granting clemency to the former FTX CEO. We know recently SBF has been making some pleas, making some moves, hoping to get pardoned. It sounds like that is not going to happen. This Rawls alert, somehow or another, I mean, they always tend to get news first. And they've been pretty damn accurate, by the way. But that brings us to the next major investigation. And this is still ongoing. We're going to find out pretty soon what the dealio is here. But Zach XBT has been a pretty solid on-chain forensic expert, I guess you could say. Hasn't been right 100% of the time. I'm going to call out one area where he hasn't. But this came out, I believe, 2 days ago. He said there's a major investigation dropping on February 26th, so in 2 days from today, on one of crypto's most profitable businesses where multiple employees abused internal data to insider trade over a prolonged period of time. So it sounds like he's planning on exposing someone. And the question is, who might that be? Well, Polymarket has some trading open for this right now. In the lead is Meteora, followed by Mexi. But there's one other one down here I want to call out, which is World Liberty Financial, because them and Meteora are the 2 that are getting the most attention at the moment. Sounds like World Liberty Financial may not be who is about to be exposed, but there were some events that took place yesterday that led a lot of people to believe they might have been. Of course, Meteora, thought there's a pretty good overview here from Coin Bureau. They're a pretty well-respected platform in the crypto community. Said that Polymarket traders now price Meteora as the top suspect in the insider trading investigation. Of course, this is going to drop in 2 days, so we'll find out soon enough. It says, if you're wondering why, Meteora is a Solana liquidity platform where people provide liquidity for new tokens to trade. To become a key hub for Trump and Melania meme coin launches. Yes, the same coins where investors reportedly lost $4.3 billion. They extracted a lot of money out of the crypto community. We all know about that. It says that insiders earned roughly $1.2 billion using single-sided liquidity strategies. Those strategies executed through Meteora pools allowed early participants, aka insiders, to extract fees and capital as retail liquidity poured in. That's why traders think any informational edge would have existed here in Polymarket. Traders agree. So we see them in the lead. When he made this post, they're at 43%. Of course, right now, sitting at 31% likelihood that it's Meteora. We will know, again, within a couple of days. The other, by the way, Meteora's coin has dropped pretty significantly based on these potential allegations, potential ties. We don't know yet. Okay, so that remains to be seen. The other, of course, was Real Liberty Financial. We saw recently, this is just in the last couple of days, I think this is yesterday, actually, we saw this. This is their stablecoin, USD1. And Real Liberty Financial, of course, co-founded by Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. We saw a slight depegging take place here. Nothing crazy, but we saw this drop and people started to freak out about it. Right at the same time, there are reports going around that Eric Trump had started deleting tweets that he had posted about Real Liberty Financial. Everyone's like, uh-oh. Zach ZBT is talking about exposing somebody. Is it Real Liberty Financial? Well, as it turns out, just later that day, this is yesterday, they came out with an official statement here. I thought this was pretty wild. It said, no, Real Liberty Financial is their token or USD1, their stablecoin, smart contracts, or wallets were hacked. Today's incident involved unauthorized access to co-founders' ex-Twitter accounts. So some of their ex accounts got hacked. Not wallets or protocol infrastructure. 0 smart contracts were affected. All USD1 funds remain completely safe and secure. Of course, this is following this announcement where they said there's a coordinated attack launched against their stablecoin this morning. It says that they paid influencers to spread FUD, opened massive World Liberty Financial shorts to profit from manufactured chaos. So they tried to depeg the stablecoin. So this is a coordinated attack, made money shorting World Liberty Financial. Says that thanks to USD1's sound mint and redeem mechanism in full 101 backing, we are trading steadily at par. No scammer can shake the long-term commitment of the entire World Liberty Financial team and co-founders to USD1. So it looks like somebody maybe tried to attack them. Possibly they timed it with that Zach ZBT, announcement coming out that they're investigating some insider fraud. And Eric Trump also did also come out and say that he is still very much backing USD1. So sounds like that was a big nothing burger, but it was rotating around the X timeline yesterday. So as of right now, the big question still is, who will be exposed in 2 days? Meteora still leading the way with Mexia, I'd say a pretty distant second. Oh, man. I did want to call out one thing, though, Zach ZBT was wrong about, okay, because I think it's fair. He has been very good about a lot, but he did call out my boy Brandon about faking some of his trades. This is a big deal. This is probably, back in November, maybe. And Zach ZBT called him out, basically saying that this guy is faking his, returns, etc., faking his trades. I can tell you, this guy, I'm not in any, what the heck? I'm generally not in any paid Discord groups, but I am in this guy's because there's no better trader over the last year and a half, because he shorted after the Trump inauguration. He's done all of this publicly, by the way. He hit Aster. He hit Plasma. He hit freaking Zcash. He hit gold and silver. Publicly when he entered, publicly when he exited. And the guy's made a freaking ridiculous amount of money. I've actually made a lot of money being in his Discord. So I've more than paid for being in his Discord for years over at this point. But that was one that he got wrong, I will say, because he has been very public about it. And I actually think pretty highly of Brandon myself. But otherwise, he's been pretty spot on. I would say it's fair to say. Guys, there's some other really big news though in the crypto space today, and it's just kind of wild as everyone is just fudding the shit out of crypto. Everyone is like, it's all over, blah blah blah. Look at all of the crossover right now with institutional adoption. We have Yahoo Finance is adding a Coinbase trading button. So when you go and look at the trade asset, or when you look at Yahoo Finance, you can now click on trade asset on Coinbase buttons directly on the asset pages. Okay. You also have Kraken is the newest to start offering 24/7 trading of equities on its platform on chain, tokenizing stocks. We've obviously seen this with Robinhood. It's just a matter of time before the entire stock market is on chain, guys. Like they're going to offer apparently 24-hour trading, or I think 23-hour trading 5 days a week to start with. So the stock market is following suit behind crypto. It will all be on chain soon enough. You also have this stablecoin firm. It's a Hong Kong stablecoin payments firm, is planning a $1 billion US IPO backed by JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Jefferies. Okay, so look at this, the amount of TradFi that's backing this firm and their IPO. Guys, this is all today, by the way. Meta is talking about getting back into stablecoin integration in the second half of this year. You also have Crypto.com receiving conditional approval to operate as a national U.S. crypto bank that basically put them on par with the likes of Circle and Tether, USDT. So pretty wild stuff there across the board. Of course, the things that we need to be asking, though, I was talking to Finance Freeman about this when I was in ETH Denver. It's like, all of this is great. Okay, there's a lot of tailwinds. It's going to bring a lot more money on chain. It's going to bring a lot of people into crypto. But, if you're holding a token, the question, I ask myself is, okay, is there value being accrued to this token? Like, I'll give you an example, like Ondo Finance being announced left and right, Chainlink being announced left and right with all these institutional adoption. But how much of that value accrues to the token? That's the real question, because otherwise you're just expecting hype around these different announcements to pump the token up. So it's great to see the institutional adoption, but I actually, other than trading some of those larger caps, not really holding many of them right now, because I think that actually some of these deep in projects that I'm going to talk about at the end today do a better job of accruing value to the token at much lower market caps, and to me have a lot more upside. So just a little tidbit on that. Now, Bitcoin, yucky, looking pretty gross, man. I've said my levels went away here, but the levels that I'm personally looking at, I would love to see 72,000 get reclaimed. That would break us out of a downtrend. 74,000 is really the big level, though, because that is the level we originally broke after after the election, when Trump was elected, and then was retested when he first announced the tariffs almost a year ago. Man, it's been quite a while. What a year it's been. But until then, I'm not really looking to trade this. I did open a short yesterday, New York Open. I did tweet about that. That was based on the tariff news, of course. And I'm going to talk about that with gold and silver and some of the trade setups and how I've been looking at these macro announcements and winning a lot on these trades. But other than that short that I opened on Bitcoin, and I already have closed it, by the way, not to say we don't have more downside. I think we could, but I'm just not really looking at trading this right now. There's just chopping, I think, more downside potentially, but there's just not much actionable at the moment other than that short that I had, and I didn't happen to have it open for very long. Of course, gold's been the other one that I've been absolutely winning on, and the main level has been 5,100. And I put this out as very transparent about it. Like, after the tariff announcements came out, the Supreme Court ruling against the tariffs, of course, this was last Friday, I believe. I looked at that as an opportunity to long gold and silver, short Bitcoin. I did talk about that pretty extensively. I have a video out on it, but in my, thought process, there's a lot of uncertainty. All this money that's been pledged to the U.S. to invest in the U.S. based off all these trade negotiations are now in jeopardy. you don't have the trade or the tariff revenue now to potentially pay down debt, which means devaluation of the dollar. And you have companies that are suing the US government to recapture all the tariffs they paid out. To me, not only is that uncertainty, but that is now a lack of trust in the US dollar. We might have to turn the money printers back on to offset all of this. Okay, so to me, that's a very easy play to go to gold and silver, which are a debasement trade. Anytime we've seen the US dollar losing confidence, gold and silver have gone crazy. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of a time where we saw the opposite as well. Silver was very open about this too. 86.50 was the range I was looking at. I was like, hey, if we break above that, we hold strength. After New York opened, I'm opening along. I did. I closed both of those trades. Not to say we can't go higher. We're at 87 right now, but we started losing momentum. And I will say, thankfully, I closed it before the Asian markets opened last night after Chinese New Year's. It was very obvious that they were not happy with the prices. They sold off. It did recover, but I did enter and exited, and I did pretty damn well on those trades. And the big thing is the inverse relationship with DXY. And this is the thing that you have to be thinking about if you want to play these trades. So I'm going to show you a couple of spots here in particular that were really important. So this one right here was one that I played a couple weeks ago. This one I posted about quite a bit. Of course, there was news that Russia was in talks with the U.S. to start using U.S. dollars in energy trade again. This obviously was a huge vote of confidence in the U.S. dollar because they've been working with BRICS, with China to de-dollarize. This was a big shift from a global standpoint. You also, the same day within that, that evening before markets open, you had the announcement that we had a trade deal with Taiwan set up. You also had rumors that Trump was going to be backing off of steel tariffs and aluminum tariffs. So all of that is deflationary, but also a vote of confidence from Russia and the US dollar that would lead me to believe, and I was correct, that the DXY would increase. Of course, this is the strength of the dollar against a basket of other currencies. So as DXY goes up, that is a move for dollars or for people to move back into the dollar and out of gold and silver. I took that as an opportunity to short gold and silver, and I did quite well on those. So very short-term trade, but if you look here, here's the play on gold here, 90% return, shorting. And here I am. I posted this DXY up, gold down, short printing. So that was a move out of gold based on this right here, this report, right? Russia considering moving back to the US dollar as part of a wide-ranging economic partnership with President Trump, per Bloomberg. Now, look, to make sure that it was valid, Bloomberg reported it. You coupled that with the other things, it was a very easy setup, really. Of course, what we just saw on Friday, though, was quite the opposite, right? We saw this announcement that the Supreme Court ruled against the tariffs. And in that case, I just explained my thought process, like, okay, this is a lot of uncertainty and a cause for people to want to flee the dollar again, move into gold and silver. We saw DXY drop off significantly that day, right? As that news broke. So this is what we're seeing right here. Drop in DXY, again, inverse relationship with gold and silver. And here we go on these two. So 20% and 32% on longing those. In both of those cases, I could have held on longer and done better. Frankly, I took profits along the way up. So I exited before the top hit, but I locked in profits, man. And then they did end up retracing. So I played it as a short-term swing trade, essentially. And if we hit those key levels again, or if we revisit gold, I will look at re-entering potentially again. So I'm paying attention to macro a lot in these reports that could have a big impact on DXY, and I'm playing it as such. The other thing is Bitcoin. If we see Iran, war with Iran get announced, I would expect we'd see a sell-off in equities and crypto most likely. For one, it's uncertainty. People don't know what's going to happen. The other thing is generally anytime there's unrest in the Middle East, oil prices move up. You got to think about the whole chain reaction here. Oil prices go up. That means that inflation, which is heavily tied to oil prices, could go up, means that we can't see rate cuts. There's a lot of different things in a chain reaction there, but generally speaking, the immediate aftermath is that we see a sell-off. I would expect risk on assets like crypto, if we see any major war announcement with Iran, could be something actionable as a short. So that's something I'd certainly be keeping an eye on looking forward. All right, guys, we got to find ways to make money out here. We can't just be long alts because that's very much out of our control. So again, this is my game plan. It's been working out, is playing these macro trades, looking at the alpha where it is right now, which is AI agents, which I'm going to talk about next, and then taking those earnings, buying up the dip on the deep in plays that I have a lot of conviction for. So let's talk about the AI agents. Boom. We got Slick Rick in the house. What's up? And thank you, man. Appreciate it. Got a lot of people in here today. All right. Felix. Guys, I've been talking about these AI agents for like the last month. And I'm gonna run you through the ones that I positioned in, a new one that I just found, and the recipe for how I'm finding these and why they're doing so well. So Felix, I started covering at 300,000 market cap. We're at 4.6 million right now. So just doing some quick math, that puts us at roughly a 15x. And this hasn't been around that long. I want to say right around a month, maybe a little bit less than a month. And this thing's been crushing it. Same thing here with Kelly Claude. This one actually is sitting at a $9 million market cap. I think it got all the way up to close to 20 million. This is one that I think is going to rebound nicely, but same recipe. Okay. Atlas, Forge, started covering this one. I have covered on live streams as low as like 120,000 when it got down here on the dip. That's done a 3x. That's still a very low cap at 345,000. This one's been getting a lot of attention today. I posted this one also yesterday. I've talked about it quite a bit, but when it was as low as 350,000. So this thing is done roughly a 3x. This is the new one I found. This is this Juno agent. Look at this freaking thing. In the last day, I found it right around 520. So I did not find it down here. Found it about 520,000 market cap. It is up 100% in the last day. Okay. So here's the dealio. You go to the X page, you find these, and a lot of times you'll see that they're interconnected or they're commenting on each other. And I found Kelly Claude was like kind of the first one. So actually, let's go to Kelly Claude first. So what was interesting to me is that this is an AI agent as opposed to what you're seeing with like virtuals, okay, where people are just launching agents and it's kind of like a glorified meme coin. That's an AI agent that sends out like automatic tweets on X, which is a lot of what you're seeing. And a lot of them are just getting, their revenue, if you will, is from fees, from trading fees. That's something I'm not really interested in. Some of them have done well, but then they kind of pump and dump, like all of them, basically. These are quite different. Okay. So Kelly Claude, they have trained to start up a business and generate actual revenue by creating applications. You'll notice in the description here, its creator is doxed. It's a reputable guy with 449,000 followers. One of the great things about being at ETH Denver is that I got to see, what's his name? Jesse Pollock on stage. I don't even think he was scheduled to speak, but I just happened to be there when he came up and I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. He called this agent out in Austin on stage at ETH Denver. And I was like, oh man, I think I am right. Because at that point I was like, this makes sense to me. Like everything's clicking. But that was kind of the moment where I was like, okay, I'm going to double down. And I built bigger positions in some of these. So, first it was this Kelly Claude. Then we had Felix. This agent, if you look at the dashboard here, look at the revenue it's generating. Yesterday, it had its first $10 million day in revenue. Or sorry, 10,000, not million. $10,000 day in revenue. But if you see, it's been on an upward trajectory. So freaking nuts, man. All right. So, sorry, I just saw a comment come in. I'll pull that up in a second. But having transparency and having a doxed dev, right, and real revenue coming in, and they're burning tokens with that revenue and creating that flywheel effect. It's almost DePIN tokenomics in a way, but they're not having to distribute tokens, right, to people that are building up the network. It's just an AI agent that has a business running that's growing. So to me, it was very obvious. This is, of course, the one that's done a 15x. Now, let's go down the list here. We have Atlas Forge, same type of deal. This thing's creating generative art, right? Their tokens tied to that. If you look at the creator, doxed, 18,800 followers. I looked at some of the stuff he's worked on. Freaking smart, man. This one is one I called out yesterday, Osobot. So created by this guy who is a MetaMask dev, and they're working on scoped payments. So one of the big themes at ETH Denver when I was there was a lot of this talk about AI agents, but in particular, how do you, when you're giving control to these agents over crypto wallets, how do you restrict what they can do with that money so they're not just throwing money all over the place? And how do you set up specific permissions around that crypto that's in their wallet? And that's something they're working on. This guy's working on here. And obviously this one's done quite well since I covered it yesterday. I mean, it's freaking going, it was like right here. I think when we were covering it, yesterday, it was like 359,000 market cap. This thing's absolutely exploded since the live stream yesterday. Let's keep going on the list. This is the one I just found. So this is Juno. Haven't had a chance to look super deep into this one. This one's doubled in the last day, though. And again, doxed founder by this Tom Osman, 26,200 followers. So this is the recipe. I'm going to keep trying to find them with real builders. And I think that's really important because I watched an interview with the Felix creator. His name's Nat. And he was talking about all the things that he's doing in the back end to make the agent function properly, all the obstacles they've had to get around. And I just don't see it with some of these other launch pads where people are just like launching an AI agent that don't have that knowledge, that dev knowledge. I don't see them really creating any real world value. That's why I think it's so important. If you can find these devs that know what they're doing, that have these agents that are on chain, we're kind of at the forefront of this whole move right now, that are generating revenue and that's tied to the token. I think that these can go much, much higher. And I believe we're still early here. For me, though, I am obviously waiting for pullbacks. So like, I'm not adding here. Okay. If we see like an Iran event, right, where the markets crash, these speculative ones tend to crash more and you can get a really good entry point, right? We saw this with Felix. Like Felix had a great move up to begin with. And then we had, I forget what that, it was a crash on when Bitcoin had that huge sell-off, if you all remember, like a week or two ago. This thing got all the way back down to 690,000. So that was a good time to add. So I'm really looking at opportunities to add when these things are down. Kelly Claude's really the only one I'm looking at right now that seems like, you look at this chart, this is one that I would probably consider adding to right now because it hasn't been going crazy the last couple of days. I think people are kind of sleeping on this, or everyone's just over rotating and bored. So that is how I've been looking at these things. And man, I'll tell you what, I'm up. I've done quite well over the last month on some of these plays. So got to be looking at this holistically. Again, trading the macro on the large caps, gold, silver, Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum in there and Solana. Looking at where the major capital rotation is, which right now is AI agents. And this recipe seems to be really working. And of course, the last piece of the puzzle here is DePIN. So I want to call out some of these. I mean, these are the ones that I've been really beating the drum for while this market has been down. And some of them have been bouncing quite nicely. Keep in mind, like the market conditions have been really bad, but some of these are showing some major signs of life. Very low market cap still. And to me, that is a sign of things to come when the market conditions do improve. The first, of course, is Silencio. I sent out a tweet earlier today that got retweeted by their founder. And I'm going to have him on for a video interview. I brought him on for a space before, but Silencio is mispriced in my opinion. And I'd say the reason for that is they originally started off with noise pollution data. The market was okay. I mean, the total addressable market wasn't massive. They've since pivoted. So they're doing they're collecting voice data to sell to AI training companies. And there's a huge demand for this data. They're actually paying out stable coins right now. They also announced they're doing a burn to mint equilibrium to add utility to the token. So this is something that the market hasn't figured out yet. And of course, in the last week, we're up 50% on Silencio token. It's still only a $2.8 million market cap. I still think this is very much mispriced. Now, we have seen a lot of times after pumps like this, we see a bit of a pullback. So right now, like off a 50% increase for the last week, I have a position in this that I built a while ago when the market was way further down. But I personally, if we see another pullback, I'll add more. I'm not going to add after this 50% pump in the last week. That's generally not a good idea. But once market conditions improve, any of these have a chance to go off, and then there's no looking back. So this is one that I think the market's starting to figure it out a little bit. Another one's Aukey. They are working on the perception layer for robots. They have a working product. They're in the process of closing a deal that would put them into profitability based out of Hong Kong. And I think they're going to be likely the leader when it comes to robotics and crypto and DePIN. This one's up 59% over the last month. Okay, so sitting at a $39 million market cap, so not as low. And things to keep in mind here, like $39 million market cap, I think this thing still has certainly 10x potential when market conditions really improve. Looking at something like Silencio, though, bro, like when you're coming from under a $3 million market cap, it's not outlandish if they hit the revenue that they're looking at. If something like this, just to put it into perspective, if this hit $100 million market cap, I mean, you're talking about a 32x here. Okay. Aukey, looking at the same, looking from a $39 million market cap to 100 million, that's a 2.5x. So market caps are very important if you're looking at upside. The lower ones, obviously have more upside, generally more risk as well. Another one that got on my radar recently is Glow. This is, what's his name? David. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on his last name. Either way, I had a chance to sit down with him at ETH Denver, and this guy has a very long history in crypto, a very successful history in crypto, and what they're doing with bridging the gap in funding solar farms. So not small solar arrays, but medium to larger solar farms. And they found a flywheel that really works. Now, I was looking at their token. I did find it finally. They have currently sitting at a $6.6 million market cap. I have to say, looking at their trajectory right now, I think this could be very undervalued. Unfortunately, you can buy it through their website, but you can't do it through Phantom. So I got to dust off the old MetaMask wallet to get a position here. David Vorik, that's who it is. I'm also looking to get him on for an interview as well. So I'm really excited about that. But this is one that I'm certainly looking at getting a position into. Of course, 375 AI, this thing's been all over the place. I have buy orders in on this thing that it won't go to the buy order I have at. It keeps staying above. I'm wondering if there's some bots like keeping it above it. So I'm thinking about, man, I have a number in mind for how big of a bag I want to get. I'm getting close to that number. And I just keep buying the dips, man. I mean, anytime this thing drops, because this is one of my highest conviction plays in all of crypto right now, if not my highest conviction play, just because of the market cap, the team, the total addressable market. It has all the pieces I want. It's like such a no-brainer play, but I do want to accumulate more. And for whatever reason, it won't drop to my buy orders. So I'm like, you know what? If that's the case, I'm just going to freaking ape a bag and then start putting in buy orders, keep raising it until the bots keep raising the freaking price, because it seems to be what's happening right now. But again, it has that recipe, right? Low market cap too. So $3.4 million market cap. Nuts. All right. GeoNet. And this is the thing I want to lead off with. Actually, let's look at some comments real quick before we get into that, because that's what I want to finish the show with. And the tokenomics and my thoughts behind that. Do you play these on a day trading basis or hold it for several days? I've been just building a position and holding, and I probably would have been better off trading on some of them, because like Felix, went up to like a $3 million market cap and then corrected all the way down, 70%. Now it's back up again. What I don't want to have happen though is like I'm like trading it and I sell and then it takes off, it hits a new, point where it hits like 10 or $15 million market cap and then I'm left out. Because I feel very confident, not financial advice. Like this is my risk tolerance level, right? I feel like they have a lot more room to run. Now, if it was a virtuals one, those ones you almost have to like flip within 30 minutes. Like you can get upside there. Like I was messing around with some of those and lost on a few, and I hit big on a couple, but those were like, okay, you got to be like sitting on your phone waiting on when to sell. Like I'm not really interested in that. But to answer your question, I've mostly been buying, building on the dips and holding for now. It's getting to become a more substantial number though. So I'm like, maybe I'll start pulling some profits out on the next leg up. I don't know. We'll see. Don't forget to, hit that like button. Please do. Please retweet. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already as well. Thank you, Kevin. I always forget to remind people of that. What do you think about the Rover entry now? I'm an alky holder. I'm not an XNet holder. I'll say that much. So let's see here. Let's look at Rover actually. I like Rover a lot, but I'm going to give you my thoughts. So I like Rover a lot. Okay. They are collecting LiDAR data. They're selling that data to self-driving, autonomous vehicle companies under $1 million market cap right now. They also have ties to GeoNet and Mike Corden over there. I like the project, but I see how much some of these drivers are earning. And I think the rewards are too high, frankly, because they've got to offset all those emissions. And then they have a lot of unlocks for team and employees. Now, as opposed to some of the other projects out there that have had early emissions where the team and employees like sold off and investors, sold off and the token's just gone to zero. I have faith in this team, kind of like I do at GeoNet, that they're not just going to like sell their tokens. They're in this to build something very real. So that risk, in my opinion, isn't there so much. I'm not too worried about the dilution to the team and investors, but it's like, man, they've got to start getting some bigger contracts in. It's great to see they have Burns. The other part of this, though, you have to realize is like, they've got to create some other revenue streams, in my opinion. Once there's a lot of self-driving vehicles out there and they're all, equipped with LiDAR and they're all collecting data, you don't really have much of a moat anymore. And I think that it will come at some point. So that's my concern, I would say, more than anything. So I think if we have market conditions improve soon, we could see a run up. But it's that is my concern, I would say, about Rover. But from this market cap, man, I mean, it is a legitimate business. They do have contracts. It's great, but the emissions are a little bit high, man. People are breaking even a little bit too quickly, I think, right now. We did not talk about Rover when I got together with Horton, but we did plan a call this week to discuss a little bit. We can talk about Helium. I did talk about it the other day. I'll bring up Helium, and then I want to talk about GeoNet. But the Helium situation is that they have been up quite a bit, and I'll show you exactly the exact inflection point. I've actually been swing trading this a little bit. So, well, let's look at the last month here. So you'll notice this thing bottomed out right around here on February 5th. What's interesting about that is it's also, I believe, the same day that Amir sent out that tweet that their biggest offload partner has extra data and extra insights now that can increase their spend with Helium. And since then, we've seen their revenue trajectory really take off. it just so happens that ended up being the bottom, and we've seen the token go up ever since. So that was a huge inflection point. And it was very similar to what we saw, in my opinion, back in September when they announced that they were going to double their buys and burns because from Helium Mobile revenue. To me, it's just mathematically based, right? It's like, okay, this is a difference from what we've seen. This brings in more buying pressure for the token and more burns. I mean, it like mathematically just makes sense. Of course, then they, went back on that at the beginning of the year, still doing their normal buys and burns, but they discontinued the additional from Helium Mobile. We saw the token just take a nosedive after that. Now, this to me is a very similar situation to what we saw back in September, except it's just completely organic, right? Their offload partners now have extra insights. They're not being as conservative. They're increasing their spend with Helium. Subsequently, that change has led to more buys and burns. I mean, it makes sense. And that is why I think we've seen this huge turnaround here in the token price. So we're still net deflationary. I want to say, I think like $2.10 right now at the current emission level is where we hit that inflection point. So I think there still could be some upside here. But I'm much more interested in holding something like Silencio, Aoki, especially 375 AI for upside. I think that Helium's upside is more limited than those because it has a much larger market cap at 272 million. And I think they still have early dilution to overcome. So I still think HMT has a lot of upside. Don't get me wrong. But for me, I'm looking at holding tokens that have the ability to turn some money into a lot more money. And I think this doesn't have the same amount of upside, I guess. So that's my view on it. But love Helium. Love that they're paving the way, continuing to execute. I think they're doing a great job. All right, let's talk about GeoNet, because this was something that you think. Yeah. Well, what's your time frame on that? And explain to me when you think that'll happen. Because, we hit $59 before on Helium, and that was with much less dilution. So, I mean, you're looking right now, 50 divided by 1.46. We look at like FTV. So 34 times right now. There's 325. I mean, you have to be $11.1 billion market cap. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I wouldn't put in my bingo card for this year, probably next year, but maybe in the future. 11.1 billion is quite a bit, man. Especially when they're at what, $20 million, just over $20 million ARR. Like that, to be able to justify $11 billion market cap, and we don't even really know how the valuation should work, but I would expect, based on what we've seen in the past, I think those days of like market caps pumping to billions of dollars for no freaking reason, just because people are like wanted to throw money in the casino. I think we're going to see more justifiable market caps in the future. So, I mean, based on the math there, $11 billion market cap, a 7-to-1, 8-to-1 ratio is probably, for a tech company, maybe you could say that's justifiable, but you're talking about 1.5 to 2 billion in revenue. I mean, that's a huge increase from where they're at today. Market cap is sort of nonsense. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll have to talk about that. Because if you think market cap's nonsense, then how are you doing price projections? How are you finding out when to invest in these projects? Market cap does matter a lot, actually, in my opinion. All right. Let's talk about GeoNet. And you said, could I spend 5 minutes scrapping all your hype mapper? Look, man. Actually, I'm supposed to have a call with Ariel today about HiveMapper and some of the changes coming up. So we'll see. Okay, man. Vibe investing, bro. Yeah, that's how you get wrecked, brother. That's how you get wrecked. So I see people like saying the XRP is going to go to $50. I'm like, bro, you realize that there's not like enough, or some people are saying like $2,000. They're like, market cap doesn't matter, man. it's going to $2,000. I'm like, there's not enough freaking money in the world, in the global world economy to push XRP to like $10,000 or like it's insane to me. Market cap, a small tool, Entropy. If celebrities, bro, yeah, but you're talking about just like straight up pump and dumps. I'm talking about them building up an actual market cap that's justifiable. Yeah, I mean, we saw Helium get to $4.7 billion in the last market cycle because, well, Alameda Research just pumped a bunch of money into it. You know, that was when Sam Bankman-Fried was doing his ridiculousness. But I personally, in this last market cycle, we saw some things get overvalued, but we didn't see that type of shit, man. You know, like even your top meme coins that were the most ridiculous of the ridiculous hit like, you know, $4 billion market cap. And there's maybe one or two of those. You're talking about pushing HNT to $11 billion based on some people making a joke. Like, nah, bro. I don't think so, man. Eventually, if they grow their revenue enough, I think they can get there. All right, let's talk about GeoNet. Okay, to me, and somebody went back and forth with me on this on X earlier about how, you know, my post was, I think GeoNet is arguably the best project in DeepIn when you combine, you look at this holistically at the team, product market fit, and tokenomics. And I think the chart shows as much because every other chart in crypto, especially DeepIn, you've seen one bump up, two bumps up, and then basically down to zero, down 95%. We've not seen that with the GeoNet chart. You know, it's kind of went to the beat of its own drum to an extent. It did have its pump in March, like every other DeepIn, but it also had a big move up in April where no other DeepIn was doing that. It had its big run up in December here, but had a bigger run up in October with no other DeepIn or altcoin did. It had another run up in January, which no other DeepIn project or crypto project was doing. And another one in March of 2025, which no other project was doing. So there were a lot of moves in the GeoNet chart that was decoupled from everything else. If we look at Helium, while we're at it, how about that? You had the big run up in the last market cycle. You had the big run up in March with every other DeepIn project. You had the big run up in December with every other DeepIn project. Like that's every chart you look at. GeoNet, on the other hand, very different looking chart, and it's not down 97%. Okay. This thing has been holding at 12.8 cents. I invested in this back in the last bear market. I'm still at 400% from the last bear market. There's no other project I'm looking at that you can say that about. And I think for them, there's a combination of reasons. Number one, they were very thoughtful on their upfront emissions. They weren't just giving out tokens like they're freaking candy on Halloween and expecting that would never come back to haunt them. And that's the big problem these other projects are facing. You know, whether it be HiveMap or whether it be Helium, you know, it took them a little while to turn on revenue, product market fit, whatever. All that dilution that you have for years before revenue hits, that is all going to come back to bite you in the butt, and you have to overcome that later. It's a problem that you're kicking down the road that eventually the revenue has to offset. And that's the battle those ones are fighting right now. Now, something like Helium, to your point, they are growing revenue. They're absolutely crushing it. So I think they can have the runway to kind of churn through all that upfront emissions. And eventually, as they work through that, I think there is a very nice upward trajectory in the future if they can keep things going. But it's going to take time. Like that's not going to happen overnight. GeoNet, on the other hand, was a lot more thoughtful early on about expanding their network to the size that they needed, while also balancing that with the revenue growth. So they didn't have all these crazy emissions up front. They were more stable in their approach and emissions while they were able to build up revenue. And if you look at what happened last year with revenue, they went into the year at $500,000 a year in ARR. In January, they ended the year at $8 million. So they did a 16x in revenue last year. Now, obviously, it's not, I don't think it's viable to expect 16x growth. Okay. You see growth start to taper, but they're expected to see go from 8 to 18 to 21 million this year. So over a 2x in revenue growth is what's projected, and then a doubling the year after. And here's what people need to realize, like when I say the tokenomics are strong, the person that I was going back with and forth with on X earlier, they're like, well, the token's down, the market cap's up. And I was like, you're right. But look at the chart, which I just talked about, and look at the fact that it's down much less than other projects, and look at their early emissions. They've had inflation. You're not going to find a single chart or project in crypto that's not going to have inflation as their project matures. That's how this thing works. Like they have to give out emissions. They have to unlock tokens to founders that tied up capital. They're willing to place their bets on these projects. Like emissions are going to happen. What you have to do is look at, what does that emission schedule look like? Is it a fair emission schedule? And is it going to give them time to build up revenue to offset those emissions in a timely fashion? If you have a lot of emissions up front without any revenue, to me, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And now you're going to pay for that, for years potentially. In this case, they did a really good job of balancing that. Now we're at a point, and I think there's an inflection point coming up where revenue growth is on a crazy trajectory, and they have a halving schedule every June. So while they do have unlocks to the team and investors coming this year, their emissions to participants and that sell pressure is dwindling down as you're seeing revenue increase. And they also are in a really interesting spot where 20,000 base stations, they hit that, they're above it. They can address the vast majority of the total addressable market with that size of a network. They don't need to necessarily have a lot of growth at this point. Maybe in certain, specific areas, regions of the world where they'd like to have a little bit more coverage. Maybe they want to replace some of the stations that aren't performing extremely well with better performing stations, but they're kind of at this point where they have a pretty mature network as far as it being built out, and they can focus on revenue generation. So it's a very different position than some of these other projects that are just looking to continue expanding. I think that puts them in a really good position, frankly. So all things considered, with the halving event coming up and the revenue trajectory they're on, they are expected to become net deflationary this year. The other part of this too, if you look at the fact that they're taking 80% of revenue, buying in the open market and burning, you have a burn situation where over 3%, 30 million tokens, 3.02% of their total supply is gone forever. Now, in my opinion, that hasn't had an impact at all on price yet. But you start getting to a point where this will start to have an impact on price. Once you start to hit a certain number, where you have enough of the percentage burned out of supply, that deflationary impact starts to have a real impact on the token price, especially as you start to see more and more revenue come through the door. So mathematically, the token, as this continues, has no choice but to go up, as long as the network continues to grow revenue. And I expect that will happen, especially with some of the things they're working on with robotics, with drones, and the amount of usage they're getting. So that's when I say, like, the tokenomics are stronger than other projects out there. Those are the reasons why. I think they have everything that I look for in a project, the team, the product market fit, and the tokenomic schedule, that this thing is set up to do quite well looking forward. And I think we've already seen it decouple to an extent if you look at the chart. If we look at their burn rate, I mean, it's crazy, what they're burning right now. So, I mean, look at this. Percentage of issuance offset by the burn rate. We're getting close to net deflationary, man. We have a halving coming up in June. The other thing I'll say here is that the team is one of the most important things. It's one of the nice things about having a platform, interviewing these different founders. I can really get a feel for them and have the chance to sit down with, like, Mike Horton at dinner and kind of ask them some tough questions and understand how real they are. Like, are they looking to build something real here? Or is this a cash grab, And I feel very confident that the GeoNet team is not here just to freaking sell and get in and get out, man. Like, Mike Horton doesn't even have to freaking work right now. The dude, like, he's made enough money in his career. He could be chilling on an island. He's passionate about this. He loves it. And he's got huge plans for them moving forward, man. So those are the type of founders I look for, The brothers over at Silencio, they've had several successful ventures together in the past. They had a really good pivot here. Nils with Aoki, man, that guy continues to deliver. He works freaking 24/7. That dude's always working very hands-on with the robots and everything they're working with there. You got 375 AI. That team is freaking stacked. That's another example of them that they don't have to be freaking working, man. Those dudes could just be chilling. Like, they're passionate about it. They want to build something. Like, they're excited about it. They're not doing this for a quick cash grab. So those are the things that I'm looking for with these teams. And it does matter because, like with GeoNet, you want to feel pretty confident that they're not going to just sell off their tokens. Because I think this year alone, they have like 30% of the tokens unlocking for GeoNet. I feel very confident in that team that they're not going to just sell off, man. They're looking to build this project up. Now, there are other projects out there that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole if they had the same unlock schedule. Because to me, I think it's very clear sometimes when you talk to these teams, which ones are in it for the long run, which ones aren't. To me, based on my personal experience in speaking with the team, working with them very closely, I don't see that as a threat. So that's the dealio, man. That could be shown in posting videos on Twitter rapping. I don't know who's doing that. Is there somebody doing that? Yeah, no, they have like 35% unlocking to investors in the team this year. I looked at their unlock schedule. It's actually in CoinMarketCap, so you can see it. Here, I'll pull it up. But again, man, that to me, it's really, really important to look at these teams individually. And I think we're going to see some of these projects go under here pretty soon. Not the ones I'm invested in, but some of these other ones are a little bit questionable. Yeah, they say, Brian says, but they say they're not selling. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It is very important to look at these teams. All right. So I think it's down. Oh, token unlocks. Here we go. They have it updated on CoinMarketCap here. So you can see between now and then they have investor unlocks. They're at 131 for the team and 213 for investors. And the team has a lot of unlocks. So, yeah, you said that before. That's fine. Be broke. I don't care. I don't need to convince you. I mean, the Silencio team, I think you're right. Like, I think in their very first iteration, I wasn't an investor in an SLC at all. But you have to like pay attention to the moves these teams make, man. Like if a project or a company shifts, just like you see this in the stock market all the time, they have a new CEO come in or they change the vertical they're working in. And all of a sudden, if they're driving revenue and they're doing something successful, I don't like stay stuck like, oh no, I care because 2 years ago they were going to do this. Like, I think that's kind of short-sighted and ridiculous, but that's fine, man. I mean, there's a million freaking projects to invest in out there. So just don't invest in it if you don't like the team. But yeah, so GeoNet obviously has unlocks. But again, like to me, I know the team very well. I speak with Mike all the time, and I feel very confident that they're not going to just like go and sell their tokens. Like they're looking to build this up. Like Mike talks to these companies all over the world that are using their network freaking every day. Like if anything keeps them up at night, it's like, hey, like we got to make sure that DeepIn as a whole doesn't fail. Like a lot of companies rely on our network. Like he cares about their customers using the network. Like you think that he's like talking to these people every day. He's like, by the way, I'm just going to sell all my tokens. Screw you guys. Like, dude doesn't need the money. No, man, come on. So that is the dealio, guys. But that is why, again, I'm looking at GeoNet. And then the other projects that I mentioned, right? They're all earlier stage. They all have product market fit. They're mispriced for one reason or another. With 375 AI, it's like they had these freaking bots in Bitmart that's been selling tokens down. to me, short-term problem that get resolved. I'm looking at that as an outlier event to grab a bag. Rover's another one that they had a hack in one of their wallets. Their token was down from that. That's potentially a good entry. You have Silencio, which they pivoted the market that they're moving into. Now I think their total addressable market's like 50 times, if not more, what it was before. Market hasn't figured that out yet. So yeah, man, that's the dealio. Please don't compare crypto projects pivoting to stocks. Crypto Thunder is a home for ex-cons. Okay, not the projects I'm talking about. I agree. I don't touch those other projects, man. Like if you're investing in projects where they have ex-convicts and the people are jokes, that's on you, man. But the projects I'm investing in, I just spent like 20 minutes talking about how important teams are. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. What else we got here? I think that's about it. But yeah, man, teams are important, guys. There's a lot of scummy people in crypto. Look at any time before I buy a token, look at the work history of these people. Do they have a criminal history? That should be a pretty easy one, right? There are some that are still kicking right now that do. We'll see how long that lasts, but I don't touch any of that. But some of these people, he's like, don't compare crypto projects to stocks. A lot of these people that I'm talking about built in Web 2, very successful businesses before coming to crypto. So I don't know what to tell you, man. But you got to do the research. And we're crushing it. So to tell you, we got the trades going on gold, silver. Those have been paying off well. I think we're going to have more short opportunities on crypto probably. So try to take advantage of those. And we had the AI agents going fucking 10 to 15x. I think more upside potentially there. And then we've got these deepen projects are starting to pop off, man. Bobby hates Silencio, so he didn't like to make 50% in the last week. So that sucks. But what are you gonna do, man? Invest in your ex-convict projects. Have fun. All right, y'all. That's what I got for you. It is Tuesday, February 24th. I will be back again this week. I don't know about tomorrow. Probably Thursday. We'll have plenty of news, I'm sure, to cover. I'll let you know. I'll post on X if I enter any more trades. At the moment, I'm just kind of touching grass, waiting for anything actionable. That's what I got. Peace.